Welcome back YouTube. In today's video I'll be going over the Rotolight Neo 2 LED and HSS flash. So you may have caught my previous video about the Rotolight Neo 2 and the ensuing shitstorm. A lot of you voiced the idea that you didn't like me reviewing a product without having my hands on it, and for that I completely understand. So right off the bat, I'd like to extend a massive thank you to Rotolight for actually sending me a Neo 2 kit despite the whole controversy. They got one to me and I'm really thankful for that because now I can review it for you guys. Let's go over what I have in my kit. The Rotolight Neo 2 comes with the light, a shoe mount, some basic gels, AC adapter, and carrying case. In addition, we have the V-mount battery, barn doors, Camara softbox, a 6-pack of Lionheart AA batteries that Rotolight recommends, and the Elinchrom Skyport trigger. We also have a kit of color effect gels. The Neo 2 is circular and has 3 spots where you can mount the shoe. The carrying case fits the Neo, power supply, gels, and if you want, you can put the batteries into the individual slots in the front, but that's really inefficient, so I just dump them in the case or leave them in the light. So while the LED will achieve maximum brightness using just AA batteries, in order to get the most power and the 500% overcharge out of the flash, you're going to need to use either the V-mount battery or the included AC adapter. The V-mount battery doesn't mount to the light itself, so you're going to need a different mount to attach it to a stand. The Neo 2 is Rotolight's most portable and smallest light in their lineup of LED panels. It is bicolor, so you can change the color temperature from 3150 Kelvin all the way up to 6300 Kelvin. This makes it really simple to balance it with any ambient lighting that you can see or any other lighting products that you're using. On 6 AA batteries at maximum brightness, the LED will be powered for 1.5 hours. It's dimmable from 0 to 100% at any color temperature, and it uses a dynamic drift technology to ensure that even when you dim it, the color temperature stays perfectly accurate. Its most powerful output occurs at 4110 degrees Kelvin, which is the point at which both of the bicolor LEDs are at their maximum output. Otherwise, it achieves the balance by using different ratios of the bicolor LEDs. You can read about this on Rotolight's site, but they have won awards for the brightness of this LED, and I definitely take their word for it because it's beating out most of the other LED panels that I have laying around, even ones that are slightly larger or less portable than the Rotolight Neo 2. The CRI of this panel is 96, which is very high, and that means it's going to do an excellent job at accurately representing all colors. I've used a lot of janky LEDs as I've begun exploring video more, and this is definitely the best quality of light that I've seen come out of such a small panel. It's also flicker free, so if you're doing any high frame rate footage, you don't have to worry about the Rotolight negatively impacting your footage. So this is marketed as both an LED light and an HSS flash. That's because in addition to the LED, the Neo 2 has a flash mode in which it will pulse and overcharge the LEDs up to 500% to kind of simulate a flash. It will overcharge by 500% when using the V-mount battery or an AC adapter, but on the AA's it only goes up 250%. It's a very unique and new way of creating flash by using LED lights rather than a flash tube. It's capable of firing up to 18,500 full power flashes on the AA's, which means the 250% overcharge. The reason that LED flash is really nice for high-speed sync is because it doesn't suffer the same efficiency loss that a flash tube would. Since it's operating as a constant light from the start, it doesn't have to decrease its power in order to increase its flash duration and work for high-speed sync. Now, here's a part I wanted to stress in my last video. The Rotolight Neo 2 is not going to replace the power that you can achieve from a flash, including a speed light. I metered the Neo 2 at its max color temperature of 4110 degrees Kelvin with the V-mount battery to ensure the max plus setting of a 500% overcharge, and at 5 feet I got an f2 and 5/10 of a stop. A speed light with the wide angle diffuser on and the MagMod MagSphere to emulate the same spread of light that the Rotolight has, metered at f11.3. That is a 4.8 stop difference at a typical sync speed. Now, speed lights lose 2 to 3 stops of light when they enter high speed sync. So if we lost 3 stops, that means the speed light would only be 1.8 stops more powerful than the Rotolight Neo 2 in high speed sync. So basically, a Rotolight Neo 2 in high speed sync is like your typical speed light at 1/4 power, or 1/32 power in traditional sync speeds. But that's also with the Rotolight at 4110 degrees Kelvin and with the V-mount battery, which makes it far less portable. If we increase it to daylight balance, it's going to lose about 4/10 of a stop, and removing the V-mount battery and sticking with traditional AA's is going to make it lose a whole nother stop. So it's just not a replacement for the peak power that you can get from a speed light. However, the Rotolight can recycle instantly, even at its max power. So it's certainly a back and forth argument of where one would be more useful than the other. If you're in a low light environment, then you can certainly get away with using the Rotolight to replace a speed light. But if you take it outdoors, it's just not going to live up to what you can get from a speed light. It simply doesn't have the power when high-speed sync is most necessary, which is in really bright conditions. HSS doesn't have the same value that it does indoors as it does outdoors. Rotolight has made it clear that for strong outdoor lighting, you're definitely going to want to use one of their larger panels. The Neo 2 uses 2 dials on the back to navigate its various functions. I'll be honest, I'd prefer a more detailed display and input here. The arcade claw machine display just doesn't cut it for the amount of options the Neo 2 has. While it works fine for displaying the color temperature and LED brightness, it gets a bit aggravating once you start navigating the menus. Confirming and backing out of the menu options require clicking in the 2 dials. I think a simple menu, OK, and back button would really clear everything up. And a display with more than 4 characters would just make it easier to see and navigate the menus. Thankfully, that isn't your only method of control. The Rotolight Neo 2 has a built-in receiver for the Elinchrom Skyport trigger. This makes syncing the Rotolight flash and HSS easy. Once you learn the menus, it allows you to quickly choose flash power, LED power, and color temperature. The dial on both the Skyport trigger and the Rotolight itself have a sensitivity threshold. So if you want to modify the color or brightness in small increments, you move the dial slowly. But you can also move it fast to fly through the adjustments. While you can adjust the color temperature from the Elinchrom trigger, you don't have a Kelvin readout of that temperature. One of the things I did really like from the previous video was the Cine SFX, or special effects lighting options. There is quite a few options for manipulating both the intensity of the light and how it pulses and the bicolor aspects, and when you pair that with the color effect gels, there's just an endless list of options for making creative effects. And they have presets built in to emulate popular effects that you might use when filming on a set. All of these have an additional level of customization where you can dial in how fast they flicker or the variance in the pulses to really dial it in for whatever your production needs. Speaking of gels, since you have control of the Rotolight's color temperature using the bicolor aspects, there's no need for a CTB or CTO gel, but they do have both diffusion gels as well as gels to modify the tint so that you can balance this with fluorescent lighting. All these gels can be held firmly in place behind the front clear panel of the Rotolight. Some of the gels are specifically designed for some of those Cine SFX that we mentioned previously, and they're all clearly labeled for you to figure out what works best. So overall, the Rotolight Neo 2 is definitely a premium LED. The quality of light, the bicolor LEDs, the Cine SFX, they all merge together to make this thing extremely versatile. I do think some of its marketed flash applications are simply overhyped because it just doesn't have the power to replace a speed light outdoors. I will say, if you are applying this to low light scenarios, if that's where you mainly work is in low light indoor situations where the color is changing in every room, then this is going to be a really cool tool for both videography and photography. One thing to be aware of though with the flash, even in using it indoors, is that the flash powers are only full stop increments, so you don't have quite the level of control in between stops of light, which would result in having to move it a lot forward and backward to compensate for minor differences. I really wish they had a smaller V-mount battery that would attach to the Rotolight Neo 2, just like the current V-mount battery does on their larger panels. It completely restricts the portability of the unit when you try to use it with the V-mount battery, especially if you want those benefits of the increased overcharge in the flash. So Rotolight, please make a small V-mount battery so that users can have the best of both worlds. Or at least get a V-mount stand attachment on your website, please. The interface could benefit from a few more buttons and a more detailed display. And lastly, the system price is going to cause sticker shock for a lot of people. I think you can justify the $400 on the Rotolight Neo 2 itself, especially for anyone who is concerned about color critical work. This is going to slot in perfectly at that price. Photographers and videographers aren't going to shy away from a price if it means high quality light time and time again. But the prices on all the accessories, especially the barn door, the rain cover, the softbox, they just seem too high for what they are. Given that Rotolight increased the output of the Neo 2 85% from its predecessor, I'm really curious to see how far they can push this LED flash technology. and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested in using one of their larger panels outdoors. If you think with all this information that the Neo 2 could fit your hybrid shooting needs, we do got links for you in the description of where you could purchase it. Hope this video helped you guys out. If it did, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment below with any questions. You can also join my photography gear chat group on Facebook, link to the description below, where you can chat with me and thousands of other photographers from around the world. Until next time, keep on shooting, YouTube.